What's up, YouTube land? Something that's been on my mind about Vixra, the guy that founded Vixra. I guess I pronounce it Vixra, maybe it's pronounced differently. But it's spelled V-I-X-R-A, so whatever. The purpose for making that website, well, there are a lot of purposes really, but the one that stands out most to me is that academia is an ivory tower type. You know, they got their ivory towers, their untouchable people who work in these institutions that cannot be checked. They can just do whatever they want on their own program, and no outsiders can go in and say, hey, this is nonsense, what the hell are you guys doing? And it never used to be like that back in the day. This is a recent phenomenon within the last 100 years. Science was supposed to be about everybody. Everybody was supposed to participate. Everybody did participate. Only in the last 100 years, I read this off the Vixra site, only in the last 100 years did it become walled off inside of the ivory towers. And you have people that study these phenomenon, which succumb to groupthink. So you have these academics studying one thing, and they're experts at it, and they all know how this works. So, and you have academics over here studying this one thing, and they all know how this works. And you have academics over here studying all this thing, and they don't know how this works. But the problem is that they don't have bridges between those ideas. They don't have bridges. And I think that is rooted not only in academia, but the entire graduate school process. You have somebody straight out of their bachelor program, where they're fresh to create new ideas and to make new discoveries, and then they get funneled into the graduate thing where it becomes more and more narrow. The study becomes more and more narrow, more and more closed, and before you know it, you have an academic who only knows this much stuff about this little thing right here. You have a person who's trained to be a specialist, to specialize, to focus on one tiny little bit of a piece of nature or whatever, a concept of nature, one little itty bitty tiny little thing. And you have all these graduate students going through this process of being funneled into their own specialty. And what you get are people that don't see the big picture. They're not trained to see the big picture in graduate school. Academics aren't trained to say, hey, well, this field over here mixes well with this field. Let's find where they all connect together. Let's make a bridge between those two studies. They're not trained to do that. And they're especially not trained to do that with not only two studies, but 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different studies. They're not trained to make bridges between those two. The chemists are over here, the mathematicians are over here, the astrophysicists are over here, the geologists are over there. And this sort of specialization, this is what you are, you can't go over there. You can't study what they know because you're not an expert in their field. They're the experts in that field. That kind of focusing on the trees versus the forest, I think that's where science and academia genuinely screw up. You have nobody in there that's trained to look at the forest, to see the big picture. to see how everything connects. I think a lot of this is rooted in industrialization. You know, it paid more to specialize to know a lot about a little thing versus a little about a lot of things. The universal type scientist doesn't exist anymore. The scientist that knows a little bit about chemistry, a little bit about biology, a little about astronomy, a little bit about, earth science, you don't have those anymore. Besides the graduate system, it would take you like maybe 30 years to learn all that stuff altogether. Why bother doing that? Get a PhD in every single field? Even then, like, a PhD in every single field, that wouldn't even be like, how much sense would that make? That's just completely unreasonable. But what they should do is somehow teach students, and I'm not just complaining here, I got a solution to this. Instead of making students so specialized to where they can't see the big picture, the teachers of these graduate studies need to teach their students, say, hey, you're going to be getting your master's in chemistry, but you absolutely have to make this chemistry connect to biology. And you have to make the chemistry connect to astrophysics. And you have to make the chemistry connect to earth science. You have to build bridges between the studies. That's your goal. Just walling off yourself and not looking at other types of sciences is not the future. You have to build bridges in between the sciences. So yeah, you can be an expert in your field, that's fine. But unless you try to build a bridge between your field and another field, there won't be any real powerful discoveries made. There won't be any synthesis of the understandings, the concepts. And I know this now because I believe I connected chemistry, astrophysics, geology, and biology into one single understanding. That stellar evolution leads to everything we are aware of on the Earth, as the Earth is an ancient star. I know it's kind of out there, but when you really start to look it over, it starts to make more and more sense. But anyways, I think I made this video long enough, 8 minutes, holy crap.